So this was an incident that the mainstream media is all over. I don't know if the other blogs have covered this or not, but you guys may have seen the video. It's already all over the internet. I can't play it on here because that's like strike material. But the shooting of Dexter Reed, 96 shots fired by CPD. The video was released. Who actually, he was relatively well, I'm not going to say well known, but he was relatively active in the like local recreational basketball scene over here. So it's kind of a mystery why the police were stopping him, allegedly for a seatbelt. So some of the details, they're saying that the body cam footage reveals what unfolded this was in a residential neighborhood. Chicago police fired 96 bullets towards Dexter Reed during a traffic stop. Now, he was a teen back when he was involved in basketball. He was 26 at the time this happened. And this is kind of a tricky one because they're trying to see, did the cops use excessive force? According to the information we have right now, and according to the way that it appears on the video, he fired first and hit one of the cops in the arm. And why he did that is really a mystery because the police had pulled him over. They had asked him to roll down his window. He rolled it down, then he starts to roll it back up. And he was doing a lot of stuff that is just no-nos, like how to conduct yourself during a police stop, because stuff that makes the police nervous, not following their commands. You know, they tell you to open the door. I mean, you got to do it. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I've seen a lot of videos online giving advice to people on how to deal with the police, and some of them are just going to make the situation even worse. But anyways, so the preliminary investigation suggests that he did open fire first. His family and his attorney is questioning why the plainclothes officers swarmed his car with guns and fired all those shots. So the fatal encounter happened in the Garfield Park neighborhood on March 21st. Is the west side of the city. So the graphic body cam was released on Tuesday. So in the one video, the cop is wearing a hooded jacket, a baseball cap, and a tactical vest with a badge. He approaches the driver of the white vehicle with dark tinted windows. So he says, roll the window down, roll the window down. So initially he rolls it down, but then he keeps on rolling it back up, and they told him to stop rolling it back up, and he kept on doing that. And this is just, I don't know what he was thinking, like why he was doing this. But the officer asks, what are you doing? Don't roll the window up. Do not roll the window up. So the cop then pulls on the driver's side door handle, which appears to be locked, and then draws a gun. He says, unlock the doors now, unlock the doors now. The cop screams at another officer, and they're shouting the same demands. And the driver apparently says, okay, I'm trying to. But, I mean, that's something that should take like a second. So seconds later, the cop retreats from the vehicle. So he starts backing away from the vehicle, okay? And then gunfire breaks out. So, okay, why Dexter was doing this, man, this is the biggest unanswered question. Because, okay, I was taking a class one time, right, that was taught by a cop, and there was one of the guys, I mean, there's been a lot of footage released of the police, you know, especially around the time of, well, actually, ever since Trayvon Martin got killed, and then after that, there's been a lot of footage released of, you know, especially black motorists getting killed by police. And this one black guy in the class was like, you know, I'm nervous every time a cop pulls me over. He's like, you know, I'm afraid something's going to happen. He was actually one of the African brothers. He was not an American guy, but he said, I'm nervous whenever a cop pulls me over. And the cop who was teaching the class, he said, you need to find a way, like mentally or whatever, to conceal that from the police. Okay, he was telling the black guy, he's like, okay, I understand you're nervous, but you need to find a way to hide that from the cops. If they sense that you're nervous, okay, you may be nervous because, you know, you're afraid they're going to do something violent to you on some racial stuff, but they think you're nervous because you've got something illegal in the car. So then when they sense your nervousness, they're going to want to search the car. That's going to make your nervousness even worse. That's going to make the situation escalate. So he's like, you need to find some tactic or some technique to you know, not appear afraid and nervous, because that for police is a tip-off sign that the guy's, you know, either got a warrant or he's got something in the car that he's not supposed to have or something like that. Like, that's going to get you searched. So anyways, not following their commands, you know, doing fidgety stuff, reaching for stuff inside the car, this is like a bad idea, man. So other body cam videos show at least two other cops firing toward him from across the street. So both of those cops paused to reload their guns. So there's like a barrage of gunfire. So Dexter, I'm talking about, is lying face down when the gunfire is over behind the vehicle. And one of the officers is saying he started shooting at us, and about a minute later, an officer examines his bullet-ridden car. He says the gun's right there. So one cop was shot in the wrist during the exchange of gunfire and was hospitalized. And other agencies are investigating whether the cops' actions were justified. They said preliminary reports indicate that this incident began when the 5 Chicago cops assigned to the 11th District Tactical Unit engaged in a traffic stop of Dexter Reed Jr. for purportedly not wearing a seatbelt. And COPA, which is the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, they said upon stopping Mr. Reed, multiple officers surrounded his vehicle while giving verbal commands. When Mr. Reed did not comply with those commands, cops pointed their firearms at Mr. Reed, and ultimately there was an exchange of gunfire, which left Mr. Reed dead and an officer shot in the forearm. This was similar to an incident that you guys saw me. I actually posted the video, but these videos always get strikes, so I'm not going to do that this time. On my old channel, with a guy on the east side who was like a total law-abiding citizen, working man, not a gang member. Police surrounded him, to search him for something. He had a concealed carry, so the gun he had was totally legal. He wasn't going to get busted for that. One of the female cops, came up from behind him and, I forget what she did. She grabbed his hand, or she did something, but from behind him by surprise. He was pretty calm until she came up from behind him. And then when she came up from behind him and reached for his hand or something, he all of a sudden backed away real fast and reached for his gun. Okay, now mind you, he's surrounded by cops at this point, totally surrounded. He's the only one. He reaches for his gun and starts to draw his gun. And then the cop shot him. And I remember the police chief at that time was Eddie Johnson. And he was he couldn't explain. There was a protest, and, I'm not going to say big riots, but it was kind of like a mini riot this was over by Paxtown, over on the east side. And Eddie Johnson was telling the people after they released the body cam footage, they're what did you expect us to do? He's I can't explain why this guy did what he did. And it's just, this is the most confusing incident that I've seen since that, because Dexter didn't have any apparent reason to start blowing at them. And to my knowledge, they didn't find anything in the car. They didn't find any bricks in the car or anything that he would have gotten busted for. They said the review of the footage and initial reports appears to confirm that Mr. Reed fired first, striking the officer, and 4 officers returned fire. It was not immediately clear from the media's review of body cam footage who fired first. And I agree, I can't tell exactly who fires first, but one of the cops was shot. So available preliminary evidence also confirms that officers returned fire approximately 96 times over a period of 41 seconds, including after Mr. Reed exited his vehicle and fell to the ground. So that's pretty consistent with 4 cops just dumping the clip and one of them reloading. So he was struck by gunfire multiple times, was transported to the hospital later, where he was pronounced dead. A gun was recovered from the front passenger seat. And Reed's family members and their attorneys said that they can't understand why the cops, who were wearing plain clothes with their tactical vests, swarmed his car with guns. They said he was pulled over for failing to wear a seatbelt. Now this leaves many, many questions. That's according to the attorney. Why were tactical cops jumping out of an unmarked police car with their guns drawn for a simple traffic violation of not wearing a seatbelt? So, anyways, you guys let me know what you think in the comments. His uncle said, if I was in that situation, I would be terrified. I wouldn't know how to react other than to protect myself. And I agree. I mean, this is one of those situations where people have to suppress instinct. And that's a very difficult thing to do, especially in the moment, because you're surrounded by people pointing guns at you. That's going to send terror through your system. Okay, and then you may try and react by just resorting to violence, but I mean, that's basically an act of suicide at that point. So he said after he was shot up, you added clips to your gun. That's nothing but plain murder to me. That's according to his uncle. I've seen videos, after, a lot of these videos started being released of Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, how to deal with cops if you're black and you're pulled over by the police, which I suppose, could be a tactic as far as legally that anybody could use. But a lot of these were very unhelpful, man. There was one I remember, it showed a black dude in the car getting pulled over by the cops, and the cops are speaking commands to him, okay, to roll the window down, and he refuses to roll the window down. He just puts his license up against the window. Then they ask him to show, the insurance or whatever. And so they're talking through the window, even after they've asked him to roll the window down. So he reaches in the glove compartment, takes that out, puts that up against, the window. Then he puts something on the dashboard, some other documentation. Okay, legally, maybe that's a good idea. And maybe legally he has the right to do that. But ignoring the officer's commands and disobeying the officer's commands is a very bad idea. And see, when the window is rolled up and then you're reaching around inside the car, I mean, that's just. They told me, like in the cab course, I told you that old school like black cab driver that used to work the Green Green. He gave me like the best advice on a lot of stuff that I've ever gotten. He was saying, when the police pull you over and you got to reach like for something, he said, you always tell them first. You always verbally tell them first. Okay, they say get the license. He said, don't just reach for the license after they tell you get the license. I know that sounds like, it would be an obvious thing to do, just like common sense. Okay, they just told me to do this, so I can just do it. He said, tell them first. I got it in the glove compartment. I got it under the seat. I got it in my pocket, so I'm going to have to reach in my pocket. You tell them first everything you're going to do before you make any hand motions. Now, there's literally thousands of traffic stops involving police per day. And there's about, as far as black motorists, there's about between 200 and 300 killed per year. For white, it's about between 400 and 500. That's on average, like per year over the last 10 years. So that is a very small percentage of the overall traffic stops, meaning the likelihood that, something is going to turn fatal is very low. But in a lot of these cases, the person, the cop is exercising like extreme restraint, because I've seen a lot of instances where, the cop easily like would have been legally off the hook if they would have shot the person, and they didn't do it. Now, a lot of times those videos don't make the news, but a lot of these people, man, they've really gotten lucky. So you don't want to be one of those people that's testing it. You know what I'm saying? And what he did, I don't get it. The police, I think 96 shots is definitely excessive. So you guys let me know what you think though in the comment section, man. And yeah, personally, I think there could have been a way to handle this without firing a shot at him. So if in fact he did blow first, okay, then he's one of those guys who was just on that with them. But when he started rolling that window back up, at that point, okay, I could see justifying just breaking the window and grabbing him at that point by the hand or tasing him or something like that. Before, because you're backing away, well, now your visibility of what he's doing is diminished. The fear level is going to rise. The likelihood that it's going to turn into shooting is increased. So you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section, man. I think everybody, him and them, acted unwisely in this situation. I'm not going to say that, anybody was trying to make this end badly, but it was just unwise what happened from both angles. This is your boy Chicago News. I'm out.